Unforced errors are one of the most frustrating parts of the game, and for good reason. There's a big difference between being outplayed where somebody just takes the racket out of your hand and having a ball sitting right where you want and you just missing it for seemingly no reason. In this video, I'm going to go over one of the most overlooked things that make those unforced errors seem to come out of nowhere. Welcome to today's video. Let's get started. Now, before we get started, I have to go over something that I've mentioned in a bunch of other videos. Now, if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, this might be the first time hearing this, so make sure that you pay attention to it. In tennis, no matter how good you are, there's still only 4 ways to hit the ball. Technically 6, but I'll clarify in a second. You've got your rally ball, you've got your heavy ball, you've got your flat, and you've got your slice. No matter what you do, you're always going to be hitting one of those 4 shots. Now, when I say that there's 6, we can actually take the slice and divide it into the same 3 categories. You can have a rallying type of slice, a flatter slice, or a heavier slice. So for the clarification, make sure you understand that no matter what, you're always going to be hitting one of those 4 shots. Now, in terms of the main 3, which are flat, rally, and heavy, they are based off of your racket moving toward the ball in a certain trajectory. So for example, if you're going to hit flat, you're going to have your racket being set up pretty level with your contact, and you're going to be going straight at the ball. If you're going to hit a rallying shot, you're going to drop a little lower than contact and come up. If you're going to hit a heavy shot, you're going to drop way lower than contact and come up to that same spot. Now, keeping that in mind, we have to pay attention to that when we realize why a lot of these unforced errors are coming. So I'm going to flip to the baseline so I can show you guys why that little detail matters in the context of the thing you're actually not paying attention to. Now, your coaches may have talked to you about being early or late to hit a ball. I'm actually not going to be covering too much about why we hit the ball wide, because that's actually relatively true. If you're swinging straight through the shot and you catch the ball a little late, your racket might be pointing to the side on one side, and if you're a little early, the racket might be pointing a little too far to the side on the other. That's something that you guys will probably already be aware of for the most part. Obviously, there's some little things that can happen, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually going to be referring to hitting the ball long or in the net and just really not understanding why the forehand that you practiced 1,000 times all of a sudden just lets you down. Now, I'm going to put up a little video on the side, and this is actually going to be really important for why these errors are coming about. Now, if you remember, I said that there are 3 main shots that we have. We have the flat shot, we have the rally shot, we have the heavy shot. Now, if you look at me bouncing the ball off the wall or bouncing the ball off the ground, this is the thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Way too many people get focused on how they're going to hit the ball, but they don't actually pay attention to how the ball is hitting them. The ball is always either going to be rising or falling as we're striking it. Now, in most cases, we tend to feel like we can still hit whatever shot we want because the incoming pressure isn't that high. So we feel like our normal strokes will work. Obviously, there are times when we're going to have to do random adjustments and things like that. But what I'm pointing out to you guys that you don't actually pay attention to is this little detail drastically affects the launch angle that you're going to have when you take your swing. What I mean is, if you look at the way I'm hitting this ball off the wall, if I hit the wall first, the ball automatically drops. Even though I'm hitting the ball generally about the same force, it drops halfway before it gets to me. Whereas if I hit the floor first and then the wall, it really should be that the ball's hitting the wall softer, but the ball always comes back to me. And the reason that is the launch angle. The ball is hitting the floor and taking an upward angle. Now, the wall is obviously not tilting up or down, but at the same time, the ball is moving differently. Now, if we were to look at our racket and do the same thing, if a ball is coming up off the ground as we strike it, and we're also swinging up with our racket, there's a much higher tendency that ball is going to go higher than we anticipate, and we're going to end up sending that ball a lot higher. Likewise, if a ball is falling from the ground, falling after it bounces, and we try to go with a more linear or flat swing, that ball is going to drop lower than a linear line, depending on where we strike it from. So if the ball's falling and I go flat and I'm sitting way back here, there's a higher likelihood that I'm going to dump that ball in the net. Even if I use my same exact flat forehand technique, and even if I use my same exact heavy forehand technique, there's a higher chance I'm going to hit the ball long if the ball's already rising. So we have to pay attention to whether the ball's rising or falling as it hits us, completely separate from the technique and the direction that we want to hit the ball. What you're going to need to pay attention to is you actually need to lift the ball a little bit more when the ball is falling, and you need to hit through the ball a little flatter when the ball is rising. Now, a lot of people are more focused on what their forehand technique is generally, but at the same time, those unforced errors will come from you hitting the exact same technique that you always use at the wrong time. So me playing a point and going heavy on the rise is way more likely for me to hit the ball long if I don't time it perfectly. And even then, there's still a higher likelihood than if I had just chosen to go with a safer, flatter drive. And then likewise, when the ball's falling, and if I try and go big and flat, and there's not some type of upward trajectory on my shot, I'm way more likely to drive that ball where I don't want it to go. So this little detail, which has nothing to do with the tactics of the game or the technique you've been taught, can very easily be thrown in the back when you start having unforced errors and you start looking at, well, how did I set my feet? Or how did I move to the ball? Or did I have my racket not set early enough? Or did I not move up close enough to the ball? All those things are important, but at the same time, you may just not be timing the swing that you're choosing to what the ball is asking you to do. You're hitting the ball, but the ball is also hitting you at the same time. And if you hit back in the wrong line, meaning the ball comes down and you hit straight, or the ball goes up and you also hit up, you could be getting a lot of unforced error when you actually don't have bad technique or timing. So before we wrap up, I'm going to give you guys some homework. It's a very easy drill, 2 to 3 minutes when you're practicing, and you will notice an immediate difference. Rally with somebody, whether it's the warm-up, playing, off a ball machine, doesn't matter. Move around, put yourself in different positions on the court, and all I want you to do is call out whether the ball is rising or falling as early as you can tell what it's going to be doing. Now, the key here is to recognize that you need to adjust your swing path to be opposite of what's happening. So if the ball's falling, you're going to try to lift up more. If the ball's rising, you're going to try to hit through more. And what you should notice is that your ball starts to clear the net about the same height consistently because you're adjusting for what the ball is doing to you rather than what you want to do to the ball. It's a very simple exercise. It will take you guys no time at all. I'll do one little quick demonstration and then we'll wrap it up. So obviously I'm on the ball machine. This ball is falling. This ball's going to be falling as well. Now I can move into different positions. This is on the rise. This ball's also on the rise. And if you notice, I'm keeping the ball about the same height. I'm going to let this one fall. I'm going to let this one fall. I'm going to take this one on the rise. And my height is staying just about the same. On the rise. Let this one fall. Now, obviously, a ball machine is a little bit easier to predict, but the concept is still the same. What you would do if you're on a ball machine is just put yourself a little closer to hit some of the balls as they're rising and back up if you're going to be practicing letting the ball fall. If you have a ball machine that can create a little bit more variety in the shape without doing too much work with programming it, then I recommend doing that. But if you're hitting with somebody, their balls are going to be a little bit more varying, and all your job is just to make sure you're recognizing how that ball is going to be hitting you. Now, once you get the concept of it, just try to up the pace little by little. And eventually what you're going to start noticing is you're feeling like you know what the ball is going to do a little bit more confidently, and you're not trying to force the ball to stay at a certain trajectory or height or direction. But that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. I hope it was helpful. I'm sorry if it was a little long-winded, and it might seem like a really easy concept, but you'd be surprised how many people make this little mistake when they're playing, and it really ups the amount of unforced errors just because they didn't quite pay attention to how the ball was affecting the stroke that they actually needed rather than the tactic that they were trying to employ on the court. If you know anybody who would benefit from this and is having a lot of unforced errors, please send it off to them. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.